So, as I mentioned, just a little bit about me. So, my name is Leon Gordon. I'm the CEO and founder of Onyx Data. Now, I'm also a 5 times Microsoft Data Platform MVP, a member of the Forbes Technology Council, and a Gartner Ambassador, and I contribute to LinkedIn as part of the Top Voices program. Us Healthseer at Onyx Data, we are a data and AI Microsoft solutions partner, an infrastructure solutions partner, and also a digital app and innovation solutions partner alongside Microsoft. So now that we have those introductions out of the way, let's take a look at the three governance gaps that we see that kill your Microsoft Fabric and Power BI ROI, so return on investment. Typically, the first point is ballooning costs. It's very difficult to have visibility into costs per workspace or per workload, or even per department in Fabric. This means that the Fabric cost can quickly become a lump sum with no accountability in the organization. Now, I've been there working alongside organizations that have that, what I like to call the refresh roulette, where there's a difficulty of understanding holistically across their environment who is monitoring these data model and semantic model refreshes and who's ensuring that the reports have fresh data, which creates trust in an environment. Okay. And then finally, unclear ownership. How can you ensure that access to those environments is governed and it's done so in a proactive way as opposed to a reactive way? This then keeps your risk and compliance teams on board. Okay. Now, typically, Microsoft does provide some out-of-the-box solutions for this. Some of them are freely available and some of them come with a cost as well. So the first of those is Microsoft Purview. If any of you are familiar with Purview or currently using it, then please feel free to put a one in the chat. It'll be great to know if you are currently utilizing this technology. Then we move across to Capacity Metrics app. Now, again, the Capacity Metrics app, if you are familiar with administering and governing your Fabric and Power BI environments, you'll know that this is an app that's made available directly to download within Fabric. Now, in my experience, you need a PhD in data science to be able to understand what's actually happening within this environment and try to utilize and read the Capacity Metrics app. So it makes it difficult, very difficult to understand. It also only enables you to look at one capacity per time as opposed to holistically looking across your whole ecosystem. Then we move across to FUAM. Now, FUAM is an open source solution built by Microsoft, which again gives you a bit more of a higher detail of observability across your organization, but you have to be very technically minded to actually deploy this within your environment. And then finally, Azure Log Analytics. Now, for those of you that are familiar working in Azure, you can have that additional layer of observability utilizing log analytics to observe what's happening in your Microsoft Fabric environment. Now, typically, what we see is that each of these varying solutions completes one piece of the jigsaw puzzle in regards to being able to optimize, govern, and understand and monitor your Fabric or Power BI environment. Now, typically, and we've done this ourselves, is previously had to piece together lots of these components to start to give you an overview of your whole estate. So there are some strengths that each of these have, but unfortunately, what they lack is a unified and actionable intelligence platform. So all of these provide you with information, but what they don't do is provide you with next steps and actionable items to be able to then turn the screw, so to speak, and take action that's going to continue to optimize, govern, and ensure that your Fabric and Power BI implementations are as efficient as possible. With this, what we saw as something being needed in the market is something that enables you to take instant risk remediation, also empowers your team via AI-powered recommendations, and gives you an overview score of your whole estate as well. So, with that in mind, myself and the team here, Onyx Data, created FabOps, which is the AI-powered layer for total fabric control. Today, I'm going to take you through how you can utilize FabOps to provide actionable intelligence, proactive governance, and cost optimization. With that being said, let's go ahead and dive directly into today's demo. Excellent. So hopefully you can still see my screen. You're now looking at our FabOps intelligence platform. As you can see, this solution has Entra ID, so AD authentication built in. So let's go ahead and sign in with our Microsoft account. Now, just in the background, what's actually happening is FabOps is actually scanning our whole Fabric and Power BI estate, regardless of how many capacities we have, and it's now providing a holistic view at our entire environment. For those of you that are developers like myself, you'll be pleased to see that we have dark mode built in out of the box, so both light and dark mode. And for today, I'm actually going to carry on in dark mode. Okay. Now, within FabOps, we actually provide you with an overall view of your Microsoft Fabric or Power BI ecosystem, really looking at a few key categories: governance, data quality, cost efficiency, collaboration, modernization, optimization, performance, and security. Okay. Now, with each of these components, you can see whether you're currently at risk, for example, for governance, or whether you're performing optimally for elements like cost efficiency. Now, each of these components comes together to provide you an overall scoring of your environment. And you can see here, the FabOps score is actually 51.5 out of 100. Now, what we've noticed is that for various industries, you may want to apply a bit of a different weighting against all of these categories. So, for example, you might have data quality as something of high importance, whereas you may actually have modernization of your environment as something that's low importance. And you can go ahead and configure these in the back end. So, for example, you can see here the governance equates to 18% of the overall score, whereas something like optimization here equates to 13%. And like I mentioned, you can customize these in the back end. Now, what we enable you to do is out of the box, we give you some quick insight. So, for example, for collaboration, we're suggesting that you should increase user training. For modernization, we're recommending the use of Direct Lake. But what you can actually do is just click into each of these components and we'll give you a quick analysis and overview of how you're performing. So here we can see what our current score is, what our target score should be. And then again, we can identify at a very high level how we're sharing information from our environment and how our tenant settings are actually complying with our compliance level that we've set here. And as I mentioned, you can go into each of these for a brief breakdown against each of these categories. Now, as we have quite a lot to get through in a small period of time today, I'm going to continue at pace. But if you do want to see any particular components, please feel free to interact directly via the Q&A and the chat functionality. Okay. Now, out of the box, we also give you the ability to compare to industry benchmarks. So here you're noticing that we're comparing your overall FabOps score with the industry average and where you fit within that percentile. We're giving you an overview of where your organization is. So here we can see it's early stage and there's significant improvement opportunities. And then we give you a breakdown for each category of how you're actually performing against the industry average and also against best in class solutions as well. Okay. We then give you an overview at the bottom in regards to priority improvements. So for example, here we're suggesting that you should be improving your data quality and you should be doing this at a high priority. And then for your leadership teams, we're actually suggesting to you how many points you can gain by doing this. You also have the ability to export this report directly from within FabOps as well. So you can take this away and put together a plan that you can adhere to over time. Okay. Now, just as I scroll down, as I mentioned, the beauty about FabOps is it gives you the ability to see a holistic overview of your entire Microsoft Fabric or Power BI estate. So this is regardless of how many capacities you have, regardless of how many workspaces you have, and regardless of how they're split across all of your departments. Okay. So for example, here we can see we have 94 workspaces, 122 semantic models, and 74 reports currently. We also show you a trend indication on whether they're actually increasing or whether they're decreasing from the previous month. And as you can see here, you can actually go into view details. And what you'll get again is a holistic overview of your entire estate and all of the workspaces that exist. So we can actually see here that the workspaces only have a 22.9 average health score. We can see how many of them have Git enabled, how many actually exist within a domain. And importantly, we get an overview in a red, amber, green status around the health of all of these workspaces. So we can see here in this environment, actually 100%. So all of our workspaces require some form of remedial attention. Okay. Now, what we actually do is we have provided FabOps with not just our expertise here at Onyx Data from our MVP consulting team, but also from Microsoft expertise. Now, what this has enabled us to do is build up key insights and recommendations that we can provide to your team out of the box. So here you're seeing that the suggestions are that you currently have underutilized workspaces, and potentially consolidating them will provide you with some performance optimization and governance. We're also suggesting that you currently have governance gaps, as you'll see here, with the lack of Git integration and domain assignment. Now, we're also surfacing that you have performance issues within this environment as well. So 80%, 94 of the workspaces actually have refresh success rates below 80%. Then what we also do is give you a tabular overview of every workspace in your environment, providing you with a health score, whether they're active or inactive, and the amount of items that each of them actually hold within them. Okay. And by clicking the eye icon, you can go into a bit more detail. And if you wanted to, you could go and view them in Power BI or Fabric. Okay. We also give you an overview of some tips in regards to how you can start to take action to make and improve your score. So for example, for this particular workspace, we're suggesting that you need to assign it to a domain for better organization. Okay. As to be expected, you can slice and dice these tables and also export to CSV. Okay, so if we did have any top performing workspaces, we don't currently, we'd be able to see those. And if we had any that needs attention, again, we can just segment those and display those directly here. Okay. Now, we offer you exactly the same functionality for semantic models. So again, understanding a holistic level, an overview of your semantic models, how many of them are utilizing direct lake capabilities, the health distribution, so that red, amber, green status, showcasing to you exactly where you need to apply attention. And then we also give you an overview of the size distribution of your semantic models, whilst then utilizing Microsoft's best practice analyzer across your whole estate to surface any particular issues that you may have. So here you'll notice that we have 101,443 current issues that have been surfaced across our Microsoft Fabric or Power BI environment. Now, typically, a lot of these issues go unknown to Microsoft Fabric admins and Power BI admins, because as I've been able to witness in my Power BI and Fabric journey, it's very difficult to understand what's going out in the wild, especially as your organization grows and especially as you try to enable self-service analytics. Now, you should be quite familiar now with the fact that we're able to provide you with key insights and recommendations for each of these varying objects. So again, here we're suggesting to resolve your refresh performance issues, check your data quality, and potentially archive unused data sets as well. So again, surfacing the fact here that 92 of these data sets have never actually been refreshed. Okay. Once again, you get this overview, a tabular view of your particular environment. So again, looking at all models, your top performers, if there are any. any that need attention here, any that are utilizing direct lake. And again, if we had any large models, which we don't in this environment, you'd be able to just highlight them directly here. Okay. Now, as we've got a lot to go through, I'm not going to do the same for reports or users, but again, there's a plethora of information below both of these panes. So let's go into some of our platform metrics. Now we're starting to take a look at our overall platform health, okay? Providing you with an overall health score, identifying the success rate within your environment, and also surfacing any active issues that you may have. We then do the same for your semantic model refreshes, again, providing you with a success rate, a holistic average duration refreshes, and how many current failed refreshes you have in your environment as well. Now, I think this screen is quite interesting to go in a little bit more detail, as by going into your refresh performance analysis, again, you're able to see across your whole environment an overview of the average success rate, the total failures you currently have, and then go into some performance statuses and health distribution. So we currently have 38 semantic models that are in a poor state of health. Okay. We can then start to distribute the duration as well. And then we can go into some refresh trends as well regarding the success rate of refreshes and the actual number of refreshes that are currently happening. Once again, you get that key insights and actions recommendations directly within the tool and that tabular overview of all of the objects within this environment as well. Okay. Now, if we take a really high level look at capacity utilization, and we can go into manage the capacity. And once again, we're able to see a capacity utilization review. So the average utilization across these capacities, the expected monthly cost of these capacities, and then again, that overall understanding of whether you're utilizing too much of your capacity, so you may need to scale up, whether you're in an optimal scenario, whether you're utilizing moderately and have room to grow, or whether you actually have low utilization and you should look at downsizing as well. Okay. Now, just as we continue to scroll through, we also, as I mentioned, run the Microsoft best practice analysis rules for compliance and recommendations across your whole environment. So what you're starting to see here is a breakdown in terms of any warnings, informational warnings, or performance bottlenecks that you have across your environment. Okay. You can then open these out to see all of the issues. So we can see that our compliance rate is 89.3% with Microsoft's best practice analysis reviews. And we can see that we currently have 1,444 errors, 100,000, 11,055 warnings, and just over 14,000 informational warnings. Okay. We can see a breakdown by severity distribution. And then we can also see issues by category. So we can see that some are just around DAX expressions, some of them are for formatting, but most importantly, from a compute perspective and costing perspective, we also have quite a lot that fall into maintenance and performance issues here as well. Okay. So again, what this really enables you to do is laser focus in your environment on where you have issues and optimization opportunities. Okay. We also give you an overview if you are utilizing Microsoft Fabric of your OneLake storage utilization, providing you with an overall efficiency score, and then giving you a breakdown in regards to growth, workspaces, and your current estimated costs per month. Once again, you can open this up to get an overall efficiency score and more information with that red, amber, green status in regards to how you're currently operating with your OneLake storage. Now, just as we move forward, we also holistically have the ability with FabOps to actually scan your whole environment, so reports, semantic models, etc., and identify the DAX complexity and any optimization metrics that you may have. So again, ensuring that your whole Microsoft Fabric estate adheres to DAX best practices. So here we're giving you a score of 32.6. We're telling you how complex your DAX is under the hood. So in our scenario, it's very complex. We're giving you an understanding of the amount of measures, the average DAX tables within your environment, and also highlighting to you any dependency depth. Okay, so here we can see that our maximum dependency depth of DAX measures is 3. We then pull out, as I mentioned before, any tables that have the most DAX measures associated with them and the complexity alongside those as well. Now, those of you that were with us 5 or 7 minutes ago or so will be familiar with this performance trends visual as I surfaced this when we looked at the refreshes. But what we're also able to provide you here is an overview of data set growth. Okay, so how your data is growing over time, and also an overview of any error trends which you may have had, and the ability to go into those in a bit more detail. Okay, again, it's worthwhile bearing in mind that with FabOps, we're able to do this across your entire Microsoft Fabric or Power BI environment. Okay. Now, with that in mind, we also call out in our overview some quick wins. Now, what we define as quick wins here are high or medium impact activities, which will give you, which you can be done with low effort. Okay. Now, in this particular scenario, we have 5 opportunities, but they're all around consolidating duplicate data sets within this environment. We also provide you with AI-powered recommendations. So lots of the organizations that we speak to get the information back from the Capacity Metrics app or FUAM or another report, which is great for the information, but they don't actually know how to take the action. And then also how to actually measure that that action has had an impact to give an ROI on the time being spent. So what we've done based on, again, our knowledge, Microsoft's knowledge, and the context of your particular environment is we're providing you with AI-powered recommendations. So these are actionable insights for optimization. We give you an overall look at how many recommendations there are, the data sources that we've utilized, and an overall confidence rating. We then go into each segment. So for example, for performance, we're looking at high priority, high impact item, which is improving your refresh success rate. Okay. We give you an anticipated timeline of how long it would take you and your team to deliver this, the effort required, and where the source was for this information. And then we give you a confidence rating as well. So in this typical scenario, we can see that the AI is 90% confident that this will have the impact that we're suggesting. By clicking on view details, we give you the specific actions to actually action this item. And then we also provide you with the expected benefits and the success metrics of how you can ensure that this is actually fixing the issue for you here. If you wanted to go ahead and select Start Implementation, then again, you would have the detailed implementation guide available for you. Everything that you've just seen on this homepage is available to be exported. So you can go ahead and select Export the report. Okay. And at the bottom, we actually give you an overall view of the health status of our FabOps environment as well. You can see that we're GDPR compliant, and you can go ahead and view our detailed status. And what this will do is it will actually load a services screen, which will show you each of the services being utilized for FabOps and if they're currently operational or suffering any degradation or outages as well. Okay. So let's go ahead and move on to our governance scoring. Okay. Now you'll notice that our FabOps score is the hero that's at the forefront of every page. And then we can just go ahead and scroll down to start to take a look at the governance within our environment. So as we mentioned before, we give you an overall compliance rating. We surface any recommendations that we feel you should be taking action on in your environment. You go ahead and get an overview of how content is being shared from your environment as well. So in our particular scenario, we're only sharing content via links. So 100% of our content sharing is attributed to links currently. Okay. We then take a look holistically at all of your tenant settings. So showing you how many of them are actually enabled against the ones that you have the ability to enable. We then showcase to you Git integration. Now, some of you may be using source control in Power BI and in Microsoft Fabric, but what this highlights to you is whether this is actually in place across your whole organization and how much coverage you currently have. So in this scenario, it's 20%. Again, based on our best practice analysis, we then surface any governance issues and recommendations. So we can look at these via performance, for example, maintenance, formatting, and again, we can look at these via severities. So if we were to look at just those that had an error, whether it's warnings and also info. Now, again, this gives you great insight across your whole Power BI and Fabric estate into where the issues are and where teams are not adhering to best practice and governance in your environment. Okay. Now, just as we move on to performance, just going to scroll down slightly. So in this particular scenario, we really focus in on semantic model and dataset refresh performance. Again, taking a look at the success rate of those refreshes. Now, one point to note is that you want to be really ring fenced and really tight on your on your semantic model refreshes, because every failed refresh, especially in the new Fabric environments, is wasted compute. Okay. The reason being is you've gone try to process that data and refresh those models and they failed. So it means that you have to then go through and process and start that whole scenario again, which results in wasted compute. Okay. We also give you an overview of refresh duration distribution. Now, in this environment, we're not too bad. The vast majority of the models are less than 2 minutes or between 5 and 15 minutes. But I have seen scenarios where we have multiple models which sit above 1 hour, for example, for distribution. Again, long running, long consumption, consuming processes, which are then a target again for optimization, which we call out here on the right-hand side. We provide you with a quality score and the amount of errors that are being surfaced. And then you also have the ability to slice and dice these performance details. Just looking at those that have failed, for example, you can see if any of those have failed with long durations. We don't have that in this particular environment, but if we did, you'd be able to slice and dice those directly here as well. Now, one of my favorite screens is actually the costs. So let's go ahead and dive into our costs environment. Again, just scrolling past the hero of our FabOps scoring and going down to take a look at our costs. Okay. Now, in this scenario, we're taking a look at our monthly costs overview. So total capacity costs, total CU consumed, how many active capacities we have, and the average daily CUs. We're then able to see a breakdown of each of the capacities we have in this environment and any costing associated with them. Okay. We show you capacity utilization as well. So again, if you wanted to take a look at this for just the last 14 days, you'll note that we only have one capacity in use currently within that time period. Okay. Just moving down, we can take a look at our consumption trends. Now, as I mentioned, you don't need to be a data scientist to understand this consumption trends as opposed to the capacity metrics app. Okay. We can see here that we've had some huge spikes over the course of the last 6 months or so. But if we go ahead and smooth this to look at potentially the last 14 days, what you can start to see is that the orange dotted line here is our warning threshold. So when we're getting above 80% of capacity utilization, and our green dotted line is our full capacity threshold here. So you can see that over the course of the last 14 days, we've been fairly underutilizing our capacity here, and this has resulted in no immediate optimization opportunities being found. Okay. Now, what we also do from a costing perspective is we actually give you an overview of your workspace consumption analysis. So we're taking a look at each workspace in your environment, how many CUs they consume to date, the amount of operations, the items, and the CU per operation as well here. And then again, starting to highlight where you're using the most amount of your CU from a top item types perspective. Okay. Now, just as we scroll down, we actually go a little bit deeper. We start to give you an actual item level consumption analysis. So understanding which items and objects within your Fabric and Power BI environment are actually costing you the most in CU and potentially in actual monetary cost as well. So here we can see, for example, this warehouse, which is part of our FabOps intelligence solution, is taking 9,900 CUs. The daily average is 129.81 CUs across 23,700 operations. And then we can provide you with an estimated daily cost and an estimated monthly cost as well. Now, some of you may be using reservation pricing, you may be having discounted pricing. So once again, you can configure and tailor these prices to your actual SKU costings in the back end of FabOps as well for more accuracy. Now, we thought that was a great starting point, but we then evolved this so that you can now start to actually attribute multiple objects to various tags. Now, where we found this to be great, as you'll see here, is actually being able to attribute objects to different departments. So for example, finance or marketing. So you can show them the amount of items, the total CUs they're using, and then attribute that cost to that environment as well. Or if you want to start to split out production and development environments. So underneath these, you'll see that they have a roll up of varying different objects within our Fabric environment. Again, you're able to see at the line level, the estimated costs and estimated monthly costs alongside with the CU values. And you're actually able to see the percentage of the actual overall costs for each tag that these are taking up as well. So a fantastic amount of insight there and a great feature and functionality. We then take a look at modernization within this solution as well. Now, what we've been able to observe is that lots of organizations, especially those that are migrating to Fabric from Power BI, just got access to a huge amount of new features and functionality that they weren't previously aware of. So lake houses, direct lake, real-time analytics, for example. And typically, lots of organizations don't know how to understand and adopt some of these tools, but also don't actually know if they're being utilized across the organization as well. So what we're able to do in modernization is actually give you an overall score in regards to how many of these modern features you've adopted, where those features have been adopted, so lake houses, direct lake, AI and ML items, for example. We give you an overall score in regards to how you should be starting your modernization journey. And even more importantly, we give you a phased approach to modernization in regards to this roadmap. So here, based on the context of your environment, we're suggesting that you should be looking at a direct lake migration and the reasons why. We suggest this is a high priority. The amount of time we envisage it would take you to implement this type of technology, and then most importantly, the actual impact it's going to have from a points perspective in your environment. Okay. If you wanted to go ahead and start that modernization piece, then you can go ahead and do so or export the roadmap directly within the tool as well. Some of you may be utilizing Copilot in Fabric or Copilot in Power BI. Now, we also surface to you those usage analytics as well. There are some costs that are attributed with utilizing Copilot, and we think it's beneficial for organizations to ensure that the usage and the adoption is actually happening. So here we can start to see the total amount of interactions, how many users are actually utilizing Copilot, and then some performance metrics in regards to the interactions, the success rate of getting a response, and then you can start to see here some trends over time as well. Okay. Now, again, just as I go into another one of my favorite views, we're going to take a look at the lineage view. Okay. Now, it's very difficult, especially in my experience, for organizations to be able to understand, especially as you start to give super users or citizen developers the ability to build out and configure their own environment. It's very difficult to have a holistic view across multiple capacities, what's actually happening. So within this view, we have a traditional folder structure where you can start at your tenant level, you can go down via your domain level, then go into each of your workspaces and start to understand the objects that are being built in this environment. So for example, we're looking here at 3 data sets. We can see if they have any sensitivity labels, whether they're certified or promoted. And then we can also see an overall look at who configured those, when they were refreshed last, and again, when they were created as well. Now, my favorite way to look at either of these is actually by looking at the decomposition tree view. So again, you'll see that we're starting at that tenant level. We're expanding down. So straight away, we can see that we have 75 workspaces that don't have a domain associated with them. And then again, we can start to break out each of these workspaces to understand what exists below them. So for example, taking a look at all of the notebooks in this environment. This view can be exported directly within the tool as well. So again, this can be utilized for any audit purposes that you may have as well. I'll just go on to our Explorer view. Now, our Explorer view is a fantastic way to catalog, audit, and really quickly understand what's happening in your environment. You're able to select an object directly here. So if I start with, for example, reports, okay, then what this is going to do is generate a tabular view of all of the reports in our estate. Okay, we'll also be getting some metadata so we can see who it was created by, when it was created, whether it has an embed URL, when it was last modified, and who it was modified by, the reporting name, and lots of other metadata associated with each of these objects. Okay, as I mentioned, you can export these via CSV. You can go ahead and look at, let's take a look at, for example, our best practice analyzer results, again, within this environment. Now, again, what this does is it gives you a great overview and an auditing process for you to be able to go and hand this directly to management for any historical login, or also to be able to hand directly to departments for them to be able to take actions against some of these items that are being suggested here. Okay. Now, finally, within FabOps, we also give you our FabOps AI assistant. Now, for some of you that are keen-eyed, you would have noticed that for this particular environment, we suggested the utilization of a feature within Fabric called Direct Lake. Now, many of you may not know what Direct Lake is, and that's not a problem when you're using FabOps, because what we can just go ahead and ask our FabOps assistant is, what is Direct Lake and how can it benefit our environment? Okay. Now, again, the way that we've tried to propose our FabOps AI assistant here is to be your first and second line of support. So realistically, we see this being utilized by teams to be able to enable their understanding without having to come to consultancies like ourselves. Okay. So what's happened here is we've been given an overview of what Direct Lake is. Now, most importantly, we haven't just been given a dump from a text or from a Microsoft Learn document that just goes through the features. What it's actually doing is it's pulling out information directly from our environment. So the fact that our current success rate of refreshes is only 45.2%. The fact that we only have 122 data sets currently, and it's providing detailed information in regards to how we can go ahead and implement Direct Lake as a technology. Okay. Now, for those of you that are developer minded like myself, you may think, okay, that's fantastic, but what are the risks that we should be aware of and how can we mitigate those? Well, again, we can just ask, what are the risks of implementing Direct Lake and how can we mitigate them? Okay. So again, in a very conversational way, you're starting to identify what actions could be taken. You're understanding the features and the capabilities of those actions alongside your environment. And you're also understanding the risks associated. So we're seeing here There's multiple risks from a data security, governance, performance, etc., and also how to go ahead and mitigate those risks directly within this tool as well. Okay, so we've seen clients utilizing this, as I mentioned, really for that first and second line of understanding and support. Now, I just want to go into the back end. How do you administer FabOps and what capabilities do you have behind the scenes? So again, those of you that are keen-eyed may have noticed this drop down at the top here. And we have all workspaces, 94 workspaces currently selected. Now, what you can actually do is you can configure your FabOps score to only work with groups of workspaces. Now, typically we see this being utilized if you have dev, test, and production environments, whereby you don't want all of your workspaces to be run against your FabOps environment. Or, for example, you want to look at various domains as well. So what I've done is I've selected a group where we only have 11 workspaces, and you'll notice that all of our scoring has now been reconfigured to reflect just these 11 workspaces. And also, we would then be able to start to see some of those quick stats coming through as well, just for this 11 workspaces as well. So just as we go into our admin view, and I'm sorry if that has just blinded any of you coming back from dark mode. But what we give you the capability to do in the admin view is actually manage and maintain users yourself. So you don't have to come back to ourselves to add users. You can go ahead and invite a new user, enter their email address, their name. You can give them a role, either a viewer or an admin user, and go ahead and send them a direct invitation. Okay. Now, within FabOps, you may decide that some of your users shouldn't have access to every page and every capability within the solution. So you have the ability to either give them access to certain pages, so for example, governance, explorer, and chat, and also turn off pages as well. You can do the same for workspaces. So in here, you have the ability to either include or exclude workspaces. Again, as I mentioned before, you might want to only include production workspaces, and you might want to remove the likes of personal workspaces too. But you have the ability to configure and customize that here. We then go into workspace settings. Now, over time, your organization may be building new workspaces. Now, with FabOps, you can configure to automatically include these new workspaces as they're built, or to automatically exclude these new workspaces as they're being built as well. Okay. As I mentioned, we give you the ability to configure groups of workspaces so that you can only utilize these for your FabOps score. And we also, as I showed you earlier, give you the ability to tag items directly into tags. So this is where we looked at having those department tags of items and also having those production and dev tags of items as well. Okay. Now, within the settings, you have the ability to configure email domain whitelist as well. So we've come across scenarios where organizations have been merged and acquired, for example, and you need to whitelist a separate domain and add those users, and you have the ability to configure that yourselves here as well. Now, we do have quite a huge amount of configuration available in the back end, so I'm going to really try to run through this very, very quickly. As I mentioned, the FabOps score can be configured, so you can either enable and disable any of those scoring categories, and you can update the weighting for each of those to configure your score as well. As I also mentioned, you have the ability to set your own customized SKU pricing here as well per capacity in your environment, and save that. And then outside of that, we also provide you with a plethora of alerts, which I'll go through shortly. So you have the ability to manage your alerting thresholds. Now you can be alerted via email, via Teams, or via Slack for each of these. And we also give you the ability to configure your outage notifications. So some of you may have experienced Microsoft Fabric or Microsoft Power BI outages, but not been aware of them until you went to the Fabric alert status website. What we do within FabOps is we actually make you aware particularly when there's a service outage or a degradation for your particular region. So you can configure each region here and for your particular product as well. Okay, and you'll receive an alert as soon as there is an outage or degradation to the service. Okay, as I mentioned, you can configure Teams and Slack as well. And we also provide you with dedicated audit logs in this environment. So all of the actions I've just taken in this environment leave an auditable log, which can be configured to look at over time and also exported as well. We provide you with some quarterly reports, and I'll go on to some of the outputs in a moment. But what we've tried to do with FabOps is to be able to give you board-ready reports on a quarterly basis, be able to give you weekly or bi-weekly management level reports, and also to be able to give you and your team daily notifications of your environment as well. So just to give you a very, very quick overview of what a quarterly compliance report looks like, and I can't zoom into this much better than this, but what you're able to see here, if I just come out slightly, is that our quarterly report is fairly comprehensive. We give you a 9-page rundown on how your organization is performing with the key metrics that your board are interested in. Okay, so how is your trend moving? Is your FabOps trend going up from a scoring perspective? Where are you sitting in your industry average? How compliant is your organization? Do you have compliance risks? What is your workspace health currently? Are there any access patterns and security gaps that we need to be aware of? Taking a look at your governance and compliance scores at an overall level for your environment. Again, taking a look at performance and refresh reliability, your costing insights and costing by service type, and then giving you any AI-powered recommendations alongside an appendix at the end of that report as well. Okay. Now, what I will do is let me just go back to my PowerPoint. Let me just go ahead and share again. Just bear with me a moment. Okay. Hopefully you can all see my PowerPoint again now. Now, what I wanted to do is just give you an overview in regards to some of the other emails and team alerts that you can expect from FabOps as a solution. So starting here on the left-hand side, as I mentioned, this is the notification that you'll receive whenever there's a disruption to your Fabric or your Power BI service, okay? You'll also note we give you information on when this has happened and when we will check again to see if the service is back up. We give you an overall look at the potential impact of this outage. And then we give you the ability to take some recommended actions. So here we're suggesting to notify your team, postpone any critical data refresh operations, monitor the official Fabric status page, and then document any impacts for incident reporting as well. As I mentioned, we give you our weekly or bi-weekly digest. Again, you can configure that cadence in the back end. Whereas we're giving you a holistic look at your score and how that's performed across the last few weeks. We're highlighting any key highlights or any key wins or any key risks. We're giving you an overall look at key performance metrics and then really honing and zoning your attention in on any top issues that require any attention there as well. As I mentioned, on our third option here, this is the email that you'll receive once your quarterly report is ready and available for download. Again, the goal here is for you to take this quarterly report and share it with your executive and leadership team by downloading and sharing that directly. Okay. We give you some quick tips, and the fact here is that we actually retain the reports for 2 years within the portal as well. You can also come back and generate historical reports if you would like to. And as I mentioned before, you can share this with stakeholders using the secure download link, and then making you aware when the next quarterly report would be available. And then finally, on the right-hand side here, what we have is your daily digest. This particular option is sent directly to your team's environment. So again, it gives you an overall look at how you've been performing across that day and across that week, any highlights and any actions that are required, and where you can go and take a look at any recent issues directly within this environment. Okay. Now, again, we've been very fortunate in being able to roll out FabOps across the globe. some key takeaways from Montego Pet Nutrition, who are based out in South Africa. They were able to get an up to 63% governance efficiency improvement with utilizing FabOps. They went for a 99.9% refresh reliability score at the end of their process of using FabOps, and they now have 24/7 continuous monitoring and score tracking in place. And you can see what Nico said there on the right-hand side. No more late night phone calls asking where the reports are, for example, as FabOps took care of all of that. Excellent. Well, fantastic. Well, what I'd like to do then is just go ahead and stop sharing. It's been a real pleasure to speak with you all today and to go through our FabOps solution. Ourselves here at Onyx Data, we are here and available for any questions that you might have from a Fabric or Power BI perspective, and our team of MVPs is always more than willing to support you. I wish you all a fantastic rest of the day and look forward to speaking with you all again soon. Take care. Bye bye.